Today, the Donald Trump circus is the #1 rated TV show across the world, and just as he intends it. I want to make today a video commenting on 6 issues that I think are quite interesting to discuss now that we have quite a period of real-world experience with Donald Trump's return as the President of the United States. And these 6 points are: number 1, the intelligence and the capability of the man. Number 2, the differences between the last Trump administration and his current one. Number 3, his motivations. Number 4, his voters, supporters, confidence man issues. Number 5, Russia versus Europe. And number 6, going forward. So let's start with the first one, which is the intelligence level, or as Trump and his supporters, or perhaps not really his supporters, but his closest allies on TV like to refer to as IQ. But really it's about the intelligence, the ability of the man. And the records is quite clear. He has a long history that's quite open in public, and it's highlighted by 6 bankruptcies. He also, including I think 2 casinos, one bankrupted twice. He also went to the Wharton School of Business only because his daddy paid, and he at one point paid $25 million to buy a property that was selling for $6 million. And he also failed many properties, including the Plaza Hotel, which was a 100-year-old establishment. He was unable to make a profit from it and had to sell it, offload it at a great loss. And essentially, he lost his entire inheritance from his father, which amounted to over $400 million. Quite a handsome sum, in fact, from, let's say, almost half a century ago. If he had just invested it in the stock market, in an index fund, he would be much richer, much wealthier today than he has been. In fact, he was totally bankrupt by the late 90s, and he was only rescued by this reality show. And we'll come back to this, if I remember. We'll come back to this reality show and currently this podcast and this influencer culture. I think reality show really is the stage 1, the primer to the influencer symptom of today's society, especially, I wanted to say especially Western society, but actually across the globe, not just Western societies. People are addicted to it. People have their intelligence levels diminished by it, and people blindly follow their influencers. That's really a very stupid thing, a very idiotic thing. There's no other way to put it. But anyway, all these things resulted in him unable to get any funding for any of his projects or any whatever he wanted to do, or to support the facade, or perhaps only to support the facade of his lifestyle, because at that point his jet was missing an engine, that he was a lot of the things that he had no longer worked, and he didn't have the money to pay for maintenance, right? He was rescued by Russia, and he was able to get money from Russia via Deutsche Bank, and that was part of the reason, I think, why he had such an affinity for the Russian administration or regime. But there could be others that we'll discuss later. Now, given all this open record, we can see very clearly that Donald Trump is far from a capable man. He is one of the worst business people ever to have become popular or famous. There certainly had been people similarly bad or disastrous who have lost their entire inheritance, sometimes even larger inheritance than Donald Trump has. And Donald Trump was able to pull himself out of this problem, mostly by making advertisements and by sponsorships, and with his reality show, including the current White House reality show, and a lot of grifts, a lot of bribery. But through all this, he's able to keep himself reasonably in this tier of wealthy people. So he's certainly not the stupidest business person who have ever lived, but I think he is among the stupider half, and he certainly is a very incapable person, perhaps the most moronic one, the most stupid one to have ever won the presidency of the United States. Now, the second issue that I want to talk about was the difference between his last administration and the current one. Obviously, this actually was explained by many others. I'm just repeating it, and that's because I agree with this view, which was that Donald Trump did not think that he would win the previous 2016 election, so he was unprepared, and maybe at some point he thought there was a possibility of winning, but nevertheless he was unprepared, just as he is unprepared today. But at that point he was unprepared and he didn't know people, so he had to go to the Republican National Committee to fill his cabinet, to fill his administration, and so his previous administration was filled with these traditional Republicans, and these people carried out the policies essentially of traditional Republicans, with some, of course, with some input from Trump, but not a complete control by Trump. This administration is different because after I think the success of the initial MAGA administration, there was a decided, obvious, apparent shift in the Republican Party towards MAGA. And the old Republicans, a lot of them left the party, and many retired. And the new people who came in are different. And these people are more closely aligned with Trump, and Trump is able to fill his current administration with a lot of sycophants, otherwise known as yes men, who are only going to agree with what he wants to do. And this is why his current administration is showing such a dramatic departure from the policies and the executions from his previous administration. And this actually is a closer reflection of what Donald Trump wants to do. The third thing that I want to talk about is his motivations. I think there are many different speculations on his motivations. Oh, by the way, there are a couple of other notes that I want to talk about his current administration. So let's stick with his current administration and not going to his motivations just yet. I want to say that this guy's problem is that he does not understand power. He doesn't understand how power works, because the United States had a lot of power, but not because the United States was a bully, that the United States was so-called a bull in a China shop, but rather because the United States had strong soft power, strong influence, and that soft power includes cultural influence, but also a lot of it comes from this economic influence in terms of aids and economic and trade influence. This all from businesses, and all these things are what he does, are things that he doesn't understand. These are things that he wants to unravel. For instance, he wants to do away with all these aids, because he thinks that these aids are just giving away money to losers. But actually, he doesn't understand this is part of why America has power in the world. He doesn't like trade deficit. He thinks that other countries are taking advantage of the United States, but actually it's the United States that has been taking advantage of other countries, sending out money that they print to get real products, real services, real goods. That was actually a very good deal, but Donald Trump wants to do away with it, and Donald Trump doesn't understand the value of NATO, of having his European and also Asian Pacific allies. He doesn't understand this, because he thinks that the United States is spending in military to protect those countries, but actually, whom could they be protecting from? Actually, those countries only need protection from the United States. That's actually how it works, is that the United States acts almost like a racket, and it was essentially extracting wealth from and cooperation from these countries, and only presenting a facade or modicum of protection, but that's actually not really true. There are some countries who are posing threats, chiefly Russia, but really Russia is not really a main threat, even to Europe, where Russia is currently engaged in a conflict, an armed conflict. Even then, Russia is not strong enough to pose a main threat. It is the United States who is the main threat. But Donald Trump doesn't understand this. He wants to tear away this facade, like tearing down the wallpaper and exposing the brick behind it. It's not going to be as pretty as it has been, and it won't be as advantageous as it is for the United States. He doesn't understand that. He also thinks that the only people who join the military to serve in the U.S. Army and armed forces are losers, suckers. And that's why he referred to John McCain as a loser. Not because John McCain lost a war, and of course he did, although he was not a commander. They did lose in Vietnam, but that was not the point. The point was that he thought that John McCain, coming from such a good family, a family of such prestige, that he would go into to join the military and actually be captured and refused being released, because the Vietnamese wanted to release him as some type of exchange, because they learned that his father was one of the main commanders of the U.S. forces. John McCain refused, so that's why Donald Trump thought that John McCain was a loser because he was a sucker, that he believed in something. I'm not saying John McCain is a good person, right? John McCain is a warmonger. John McCain is quite aggressive. He believed in an idea of America that I will come back later in today's podcast, in this recording later, perhaps in point 4. I will come back to it. He represented that, but for Donald Trump, he doesn't really care. Donald Trump is not a big thinker. Donald Trump doesn't have any belief system. The only thing that he cares about is himself, and the only thing that he believes in is money. And lastly, I want to say when it comes to his current administration is that if you examine it, you will see that the behavior is really that of a high school bully. That's very typical of these American teen movies, right? For people who are not Americans, this could be very unfamiliar. It could be. I don't know. Maybe for some countries this is also common, but I believe that in many countries this type of high school bullying of these drama queens, all these popularity contests, these are quite American specific, and it's not just for Donald Trump and the right wing. There is also another cult, and many others, of course. One cult in particular is like that of this Taylor Swift drama, and she has so many followers, she has so many fans. This is just very crazy. I just don't understand these people. But we're talking about a 30-something-year-old woman that's acting like she's still in high school and making music, so-called music that's completely void of any substance. And yet she is the most popular singer today, and that says a lot about the society and the culture. Now let's go to motivation. Point number 3, motivation. What is motivating Donald Trump today? Let's say one thing. Let's put one thing aside, which is what I think is not motivating him, which is fascism. A lot of people say that Donald Trump is an American fascist, and they are correct. But he is at the same time he is a fascist. He is not a deep thinker. He is not. He is quite different than Mussolini or Hitler or the others. He doesn't. To the extent that he is a fascist, it's because of his nature. This is really who he is. There is no thinking behind how he acts. There is no deep philosophy behind how he acts and how he makes his decisions. All his actions and decisions are reactive. Those are like a reflexes. It's like these animalistic reflexes that are hardwired in his brain, in his nature. So he's not really a real motivated. He's certainly not motivated by fascism. But there are two things that I think are motivating him. One is hate. He hates a lot of things. He hates a lot of people. I'll go back to this in the next point. And another thing that's motivating him, I think, is Russia. I don't know exactly what is his Russian connection, but to say that he has no Russian connection is foolish, is idiocy in itself. Because it's completely inconsistent for someone who, with his character, to be so, what is the word? to be so subservient, at least apparently subservient to Vladimir Putin. It's certainly not consistent in character. And if we look at how his history has been with Russia, that since the late 70s he has received funding from Russia, and in the 90s, since the 1990s, Russia is the singular source where he had been able to raise funds for a lot of his projects. So there must be some connection. I don't know if there is really a P-tape or something similar to that extent, but to that effect. But I actually don't think that is how it is. Meaning that I don't think that it's really about some strong evidence that Putin of Russia would threaten Donald Trump with, because Donald Trump and his followers could simply ignore all evidence. There is even an undisputed evidence, a fact, that he had an affair with Stormy Daniels. That didn't hurt him at all. There was he has been convicted of sexual assault. That didn't hurt him. How could let's say a drug video, a pee video, whatever evidence? How can anything, or even that money has been exchanged? No, Donald Trump is publicly receiving money from oligarchs in exchange for favors. So bribery, no. So I don't think there is anything in terms of threats, blackmails that Russia is pulling on Donald Trump, but rather it's somehow that Putin is able to earn his favor, to make him fascinated with Russia. That is not something that I understand really, but I think he is fascinated by Russia, that he loves Russia, perhaps more than America, but not necessarily based on facts. And in fact, I think it's probably not based on any fact, because fact is an optional extra with Donald Trump and current American culture. It really is something, some illusion that Russia has been able to create that fascinates Donald Trump and draws so much favor from him. And Donald Trump, you see that Donald Trump put tariffs on every country except Russia, right? And I said this, in fact, in a Chinese recording a month ago. I said that Donald Trump was going to launch trade wars with the entire world, except Russia, and that's exactly what happened, because he is somehow subservient to Russia. Now let's go to the fourth issue, which is his supporters, his enablers. And in this, we can't avoid talking about the so-called white evangelicals, and in fact, white Christians in general from America, because white evangelicals is not really a theological definition. It doesn't really have a strong, consistent theological definition today. It's really a political one. It's a political identity. And after MAGA, after Trump's first administration, the definition of white evangelicals is essentially a white person who identifies as Christian and who supports Donald Trump. That's roughly what it is. And their belief, it's an echo chamber. Some of them had long held the belief, and this is this had been true. This has been true always in American society among white Christians, whether they were ever evangelicals or mainstream Protestants or even Catholics. They always believed in their own superiority. And in particular, even before Donald Trump, evangelicals in particular, above all other Protestants, all other Christians believed that they were even superior than the superior Christians, white Christians, because of these. I don't quite understand, but it's just their evangelicals it's about an experience. They believe that they are closer to God, that they are favored by God, and they're living with God. Something along that lines. They believe that they are favored by God, and for that reason they are superior than all others, including all other Christians. But with Donald Trump, this has been furthered. Now, I'm going to leave a link by a Christian, a blog talking about white evangelicalism and white Christians and their identity and how they mitigate, or perhaps how they balance. What's the word? Reconcile the difference between Trump, such a flawed person, such an unchristian person, and their belief system, at least that they claim, their claimed belief system of Christianity. Now, of course, these white evangelicals, by definition, are not Christians. They don't actually believe in Christianity. They don't believe. They are not followers of Jesus Christ. They are followers of a Jesus Christ, of a Jesus that they have created. That Jesus is closer to Donald Trump than the original Jesus, the Son of God, right? So in their own echo chamber, they have become increasingly supremacist. They are increasingly misogynist. They no longer believe in facts. Any information that is presented to them that contradicts their belief system, they claim is misinformation or disinformation. They claim that is propaganda or the deep state. Some of it is. I'm not saying that the deep state doesn't exist. I'm not saying that there is no misinformation or disinformation. But to stick to a belief system and ignore all facts is a cult mentality that is quite dangerous. And within this cult, under this cult mentality, thanks to Donald Trump, who is a deeply racist, a deeply misogynist person who is full of hate. He hates a lot of people. He hates elites, including these New York elites who disliked him because they thought that Donald Trump was stupid, idiotic, moronic, and vulgar. And they were correct. Those elites, perhaps disdainful as they were, or as they are, they were correct in identifying Trump for what it is, what he is. But Trump's cult members, they actually, inside this echo chamber, they start to absorb more. They become emboldened. They become more outwardly racist, misogynist. They think they claim that the world was going to be taken over by transsexuals. That if their children go to school, or public school at least, that their penises are going to be sawed off, and sawn off, not sawed off, sawn off, and that's. All these crazy things that Donald Trump, and also that immigrants are coming in to eat their dogs and cats, all these crazy things that Donald Trump conjures up, and it's reverberated in the echo chamber, and a brood such hate that's actually energized people, and they supported Donald Trump in this election, and most of them still support Donald Trump. A lot of them are hurting badly economically, financially. They will hurt more. They will be the ones most vulnerable because they are the ones most stupid, and they are the ones least likely to succeed in the economy, at least among white people, right? And for those people who are not white evangelicals who were Trump supporters, they just simply made a mistake. They were conned. And actually, I was recently been watching Fargo, season 4, and there was this black man, this leader of this one of the gangs. He made a statement, and that's quite true, which is that the game, the crime of America is the confidence man. Something to the effect that the archetypical criminal in America is the confidence man. He's going to fleece you and makes you feel that he is your friend or something like that. I'm not paraphrasing it, but essentially that's what he's saying. And I think people have been conned by Donald Trump. That's the fourth point. The fifth point that I want to talk about very, very briefly, because I'm really mostly talking about Donald Trump today, but I want to touch very briefly on Russia versus Europe. As I said, I think in one of my previous, last year or perhaps 2 years ago, podcasts, I mentioned that really Russia preemptively invaded Ukraine because it was positioning itself in a post-American world order, and it was positioning itself against Europe, against the European Union. And I still believe that is true, but at the same time, I also, from the very beginning of this war, I said that I think Russia was wrong to have invaded at that point, and it has become quite clear that Russia misjudged, underestimated Ukraine's resolve to defend itself, and the war hasn't gone the way that Vladimir Putin had hoped. I think what he had hoped was to be able to wrap this up and put Russia in a strong position in the post-American world order before he retires. But now it appears that this war will continue to drag on. Even with support from Donald Trump, Russia is not going to, win decisively in this war. It's going to be a forever war for Russia. It's going to make the economic situation in Russia worse, and the Russian people will suffer. That was a miscalculation, and this should serve as a warning to all the world's leaders, especially those who are dictatorial in nature or in spirit, that they must use military force only as the last resort, because once war starts, you control how the war starts, but not how the war ends, right? So this is a warning to everyone. And I'm talking about this with Donald Trump because I think Donald Trump is going to help Russia, and don't be surprised if at some point Donald Trump is going to send military equipment to help Russia. But I don't think that this is going to stop the bleeding for Russia, because even if Russia is able to occupy Ukraine fully at this point, and that is a big if, I think it's very, very unlikely to happen. But even if that had happened, Russia would have a very tough time holding on to Ukraine, and its economy would have already collapsed, perhaps long before them, or perhaps soon after. Lastly, I want to talk about going forward. Here, I think these are, of course, just my speculations. First, I want to say that after the midterms, during which the Republicans would lose, to quote Donald Trump bigly, Donald Trump will be impeached for a third time. Whether this time he would be fully removed will depend on how the real American people vote in the midterm elections. Because if in Congress there's enough vote, Donald Trump would be impeached and removed. But if there won't be enough vote, he wouldn't be. There will be, in the meantime, a lot of social unrest, because American people in particular, will be suffering, and worse, it's going to be a long period of pain, and Donald Trump would appear more aloft, more alienated from the American people than ever, because this is a person, again, who has never worked who has never done an honest day's work in his life. He is the furthest removed from the American people. He was born with a golden spoon born with a golden spoon in his mouth. He is and he really is misjudging the American people, and he doesn't understand a lot of the economics or how to govern. He doesn't understand diplomacy. He is an idiot, right? And I think another thing is that going forward, the American empire would unravel, thanks completely to Donald Trump. No, actually in large part to Donald Trump, because even without Donald Trump's hastening of this collapse, the American empire was already on its way down. I think after Donald Trump, it would collapse very quickly, and I think American influence would be gone, because American soft power is gone. If America needs to only resort to hard power, military power, it's going to find it very limited in effect. The U.S. dollar, its dominance, I think it probably will be gone sooner rather than later. But one thing that's not going to happen is a fascist takeover, a dictator, or some sort of dictatorship with Donald Trump at the helm in the United States. That, I think, is not going to happen, and that is because Donald Trump is an incompetent man, that Donald Trump is not a deep thinker, is not a philosopher. He doesn't understand these things. He doesn't think this long into the future. What he does is reacting to the news, today's news, and thinking about how to make how to do something even more outrageous tomorrow to grab another headline. That's what's on his mind. He's never thinking more than 2 steps or 2 days ahead. So there's not going to be a fascist takeover or dictatorship with Donald Trump. But of course, I could be wrong.